Hello and welcome to the Overland Journal podcast. I'm your host, Scott Brady, and I'm here with my co-host, Matt Scott.
Hello.
And we are here with Dan and Marlene from the Mish, right? Mish. And they have traveled to over 40 countries, and they just got back from a big trip. They drive a Mercedes Sprinter, and they travel with, there's 5 of you in there, isn't there?
Yep.
There is 3
The
children.
3 are here.
And
Technically 7 if you count the cats these days.
2
You have
cats.
cats in your Sprinter van.
That's
amazing.
Plenty of room.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So give us a little bit of insight into where you've been, what you've done. Just give us kind of an overview.
Okay.
So people know where you guys have been in the world.
And a special thanks to Moon Fabrications for supporting this week's podcast. Moonshade by Moon Fabrications is the portable vehicle awning you've been waiting for. Moonshade is built to last, simple to set up, and ships with everything you need to mount the Moonshade to most vehicle styles without a drill right out of the box. With over 60 square feet of shade coverage and multiple setup configurations, Moonshade is the ideal choice for rigs of all sizes. Moonshade only weighs 8 pounds and shrinks down to the size of a yoga mat, so you can pack more of what you need out on the trail. Visit moonfab.com. That's MOONFAB.com to place your order today. For the worst summer sun, treat yourself to the best. Moonshade has you covered. Thanks, Moonshade.
It's just sort of raw numbers. We've been on the road for about 14 years, 41 countries, 4 continents, 49 U.S. states. All the provinces in Canada, however many there are, a couple of territories.
Yeah.
Most of the Mexican states.
Okay.
And currently we're in a 170 4x4 Sprinter van.
Nice.
That we switched to in 2018 with the intention to ship across to Europe, which turned out to be a good idea. But before that, we were in a four-wheel camper on an F-250 chassis for 2 years.
Okay.
Then before that, we were doing just North America in a 2007 Airstream trailer.
And there's nothing wrong with an Airstream.
I think that's where I became first familiar with you guys was the Airstream phase. What that was like 5 or 6 years ago or something? Because that's when we were like
6 years ago.
Yeah, that's when we were kind of like looking at, can we like run the business from an Airstream? And we bought an F-250 and did everything. I don't know why we didn't end up doing that. I think we realized that we would kill each other as people living in a confined
That's what I
space
tell
together.
people. Yeah. People want.
So that's my first question. How do you not kill each other? Having 5 of you and 2 cats in a van.
Well,
170 Sprinter's big.
it is, and I think what we realize at this stage, we can and shouldn't go smaller.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've actually gotten smaller over time, because we started when our oldest, who's 15 now, was just 1, and these 2 weren't born yet. And as our family grew bigger, our ambitions got bigger.
Sure.
So we had to choose. Okay, we have to go smaller in the vehicle so we can go more places, but we also have to make sure we're comfortable. So what became really important was just layout. As a matter of fact, our 25-foot Airstream isn't laid out as good as our 4-wheel camper or our Sprinter for a family of 5.
Interesting.
So that's what it's really.
What's kind of, did you have like the front bedroom?
Yeah.
Did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like why? That doesn't make sense to me. Like what was it about the layout of the Airstream that didn't work for you? I'm just curious.
Full-time
These are the
beds.
best questions with ones that, when Matt's curious, it's usually good.
He really wants to know. It's the idea of having full-time beds that don't convert.
Okay.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when you live in a full-time, and there's all different types of scenarios can happen, and you've got to consider the worst-case scenario, which is long driving day, everybody's tired.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to finally find a place to stay the night, and then go into camper, and then realize you have to do an hour of setting up.
Sure.
So I think people that have done this knows that if you can make the setup as easy as possible, it's going to make your life, and that kind of goes with not killing each other. Like,
Yeah.
make your life easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
That makes sense. Just reduce stress, reduce
In every
time.
way you can.
The TTB, time to bed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
That's a new term that we've invented on the
TTB,
Overland Journal podcast.
right. Hashtag TTB.
Yeah. I I actually call it time to beer, and it's the thing I love about the Roamer, because I don't have to do anything, and then I can pull up and crack a beer.
Yeah.
It's the best TTB in that regard.
That's a big difference between our four-wheel camper and the Sprinter.
Yeah.
Is we can access the fridge without going outside.
Yeah.
And that's
Not
good.
that we're promoting having a beer when you're in the driver's seat.
Well, no, obviously we're not doing that. But
Sodas, right?
Yeah, road sodas.
Cold brew coffee.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, what did you guys do before you started traveling full time? And were you able to transition your business or your career to doing that while you're traveling? How did that all work?
So I've been a web developer. So I was working for mostly startups in the Southern California area.
Okay.
And in 2004, the last company I worked for was acquired by a Fortune 500 company, so it has some stock options.
Okay.
So as a young 30-something, I felt like I've made it.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Really, it was just enough for me to walk away for a bit.
Sure.
To kind of start my own thing. So I started my own sort of freelance business.
How old were you when you did that?
In 2004, I was 29.
Okay, cool.
So in 2004, I became a self-employed freelance web developer. So, we're still young, we haven't had kids yet. So our mentality was totally different. We weren't necessarily the people that had these world traveling ambitions. We were like
you need to buy a
suburbanites,
house.
right? Say, okay, we're in this house, we gotta buy a house, we gotta get a bigger house, we gotta get a cooler car, and all this stuff.
You can do that. You can go down that.
You can just go down that black hole and never come back.
There's a sailing couple. It's called Sailing Uma. They're on YouTube.
Yeah.
And their tagline is "Don't buy a couch." If you can avoid making
we were talking about this, so it makes so much sense. If
you can avoid
it
that
all ends when you buy the couch.
As soon as you buy the couch, you're kind of done.
Just don't ever live in a place that has space for a couch.
That's right, exactly.
So it eliminates even the thought of it.
Yeah, exactly. But that takes a lot of courage to buck the system, to go in a different direction than buying the house in Riverside, and just going down the road.
For sure. Yeah. And I guess for us, what really got us the desire to go see stuff is actually after we started having kids. We had our oldest in 2007, and then now we're like a young family of 3, and we're like, let's go take her to go travel. I work from home. We don't have to stay here if we don't want to.
And what were you traveling in at that point?
Our first ever camper was a Tab.
Okay.
A little teardrop.
The teardrop.
Yeah, sure.
So, they were relatively new to the scene at the time. I think they went away for a couple of years and then they came back.
Right.
So they're pretty popular now again. So our first trip was actually to Tucson, Arizona with her for 3 weeks.
Awesome.
And 2 of those weeks she got a really bad respiratory infection and was hospitalized.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So luckily they have a good children's hospital.
Yeah.
So we were I was in the trailer. She was in the hospital room with her during that time, and I was in the camper in the hospital parking lot.
Sure.
And my thought was well, you can camp at any hospital for free, probably. They won't kick you out. So I always
don't
had
put that on
mind.
Overlander.
No. And I've never camped in the hospital since, but I always think about it. It's
maybe a few Walmart parking lots, huh?
Yeah. More than a few.
We're probably in the 3 digits.
I know.
When it comes to Walmart slept at.
I know.
Yeah. It's expectation of living life on the road is this beautiful campsite. The reality. Walmart parking lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
Sometimes it's your only choice. Yeah.
When we came back from Europe a month ago when we finally got our van back, it was actually quite comforting to pull into a Walmart.
Sure.
We're nostalgic for it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of Walmarts have stopped letting people park.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So you guys just got back from Europe. Relatively recently, you guys did row over there and back, I think, right?
Right.
So, I guess one of the things we've never really talked about is that shipping to Europe. We've had people talk about shipping to Africa and all these kinds of things. What was that process like? Was it easy? Where did you exit the U.S.? Where did you enter Europe and vice versa? I'm selfishly curious.
Okay. In 2018, we shipped from Baltimore.
Okay.
And it was an
a lot
easy
of cars
going.
come in there, right?
Yeah, it's
So
a big row
So
terminal.
for the safest route with not a lot of stops.
Yeah.
The stops mean chances of break-in or something happening to your vehicle. So we went directly from Baltimore to Zeebrugge in Belgium.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
like for those
no
that don't know
issues.
Ro-Ro, you hand over your keys to the shipping company.
Yeah.
And then they say, leave the doors unlocked.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
And then they say, there's nothing in there, right? And you say, right.
That's right.
Yeah. But it's full of hot sauce and clothes and
Yeah, because
our
you're not
stuff.
supposed to ship personal effects.
Right.
And like when I shipped back from Panama, Ro-Ro, you're not supposed to have any fuel in it, like just enough for it to get on.
Yeah.
And of course, you do the nod, wink, wink.
Yeah.
And of course, I've got like all my stuff. And
I gotta drive away from the port when it gets there.
And I'll tell you, I mean, Panama was amazing. They were perfect, and nothing got stolen.
Good.
Yeah.
We haven't had anything stolen, but you hear about it.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
But of course, you only hear about the bad stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were fortunate because we also chose almost the first time they actually had 2 extra stops that were unanticipated. But it went to like Frankfurt, and then maybe it went to somewhere in UK.
Right.
But this coming back was nonstop, port to port, and then so minimize the chance of somebody sticking their head in and seeing what there's to take.
And as I recall, it's a lot cheaper to ship to Europe than back.
Yeah.
Because of the number of, there's more cars coming this way than the other way.
Yeah, so we had heard that, and that turned out to be true, but we don't know how much of the increase in price was due to just the troubles with the current logistics.
Yeah, I mean, when you initially shipped in 2018,
Yeah. It was a
and then
different
shipping
world.
back in 2022,
Yeah.
different world.
Big
Like,
difference.
I know what containers used to cost me in 18, and I know what they cost me in 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think container prices have jumped higher than
Ro-Ro's
Ro-Ro.
relatively
Ro-Ro's so-
consistent because they can't produce the cars in as great a volume, right? And these
Right.
ships are so specific.
Right, and then with containers, you're competing with everybody who's selling little tchotchkes and getting them made from wherever. Yeah, so it was, I think it went up about 60% compared to shipping there and shipping back.
And can I ask how much it was initially, like, to get there? And
2,500
there.
all said and done, paperwork and everything to get there. And on the way back, it was 4,000.
Okay. And then what about insurance for the EU? Like what? Because I don't know why more people don't ship to Europe. Like there's so many cool things there.
Yeah.
You have access to North Africa. You have access to places in Eastern Europe.
Right.
You have all of the Nordic countries and all that kind of stuff. There's so much cool stuff.
And great infrastructure.
Yeah, great infrastructure and the world's best art museums, which is I'm super keen on. So what was the insurance process like for a U.S. registered vehicle? Was it easy to acquire? Who did you use?
It was easy.
Yeah, so for us, we use a company that specializes in foreign vehicles traveling in Europe.
Yeah.
So they require, you can do full coverage if you want, but at the minimum you need liability.
Okay.
And for liability, they use what's called a green card insurance, and that's what everybody has. Anyone who has a car in Europe has to have a green card insurance card, and it has like all the countries' names on it, and then the ones that they cover are circled, and the ones that aren't are like punched out or something.
Yeah.
So we had all of EU countries covered.
As Americans, I think.
As Americans, and through our insurance company, you can get more, but I don't know how we didn't get, but you can also buy liability insurance per country while you're there.
Okay.
For non-EU countries.
Yeah.
And that was like, for our van liability, it was $1,500 a year.
Yeah.
That's really not
Yeah.
that bad when you
They did
think
require
about
us
it.
to keep our liability insurance in the U.S., which I don't know why, but
Because we have to
That's another
keep.
$30
We're from
a month.
we're from California, so we have to keep liability minimum to keep our registration.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
just per state.
I think
Awesome.
Arizona does that too, because I realized one of my motorcycles is registration has been canceled
Illegal?
because it didn't have insurance on it because it's been sitting there for like 3 years in the corner gathering dust. Yeah.
yeah, so it's pretty straightforward, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
But full coverage gets expensive.
Yeah.
I think if you want a full like theft and accidental coverage, it's like for our van anyways, it was going to be like $7,000 for the year.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we
Yeah,
just
that really
took
goes
a
up.
chance.
It's very expensive.
Yeah.
And there's only a few that do it. Thumb Insurance is one. You can insure through Lloyd's as well, but that's even more expensive.
Yeah.
So.
What was the one that we looked into?
Like something with the A.
But it's
there
very
was a down.
expensive.
Yeah,
Just a few months trip down to Panama with a vehicle, it was over $5,000 just
For full coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because the vehicle was expensive enough where it'd be.
And as far as the insurance is concerned, you have to also pay for separate loss insurance if you want full coverage for the Ro-Ro trip. If you're concerned that something may happen to the ship, which on the way back we were just like a month before that Ro-Ro ship sank.
Right.
With all those fancy cars on
And they
there.
were all on fire and everything.
And then we were thinking, does this mean the odds are better for our ship that it won't sink? So,
Or is this a trend?
Yeah.
or is this gonna, right. Hopefully it's not a start of something. But again, both of our trips were very, very easy. Well, I wouldn't say easy, but we were fortunate nothing bad happened.
Yeah.
There's delays, obviously, there's always delays. So,
Well, one of the questions that I have, I don't have children myself, and I spend a lot of time with my nephews, and I know how joyful that is to be with them, but I get to give them back. So, for you guys, how did things change from what you expected travel to be like with a family of 5, and the realities now that you guys have traveled in Europe together and you've spent so much time in close quarters? What's been the amazing joys from that things that have changed you as a family? And then what advice would you give to a family that wanted to do something similar?
do you want to start?
I think when we started, we were like, let's go to Florida and back and do like our big 3-month trip, and we'll show, our kid the sights. And it didn't become what we were going to go look at. It became our bond, was so much stronger.
We're still on our 3-month trip.
I love it.
14 years later.
Yeah.
But the bond between us was stronger because we were together all the time. We knew what we were feeling, and we're experiencing everything together. So we had the same memories. We can talk about the same things. And then once we had more kids, the sibling bond and how much they like spending time together is why we keep doing this.
And then just as a logistics thing, I'm just thinking about if you're pregnant on the road, like how do you plan on where you're going to have how does that work?
We made a bad financial decision, and we left our house empty, and we weren't in it until I was pregnant.
Until we knew we were done with having kids.
I
And
see.
then we sold it after the 3rd kid, but between the 1st and the 3rd kid, we left our home empty in California, and I used the same doctor, and they were all born in the same hospital. And as soon as they had their shots and they were clear from the doctor, we went back into.
So when you were pregnant, you would come back to California, you would be there and
deal with
got
that.
it. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I mean, we had.
I was like, that sounds like an
No,
adventure all in and of itself.
No.
People have done that.
I'm sure.
We think that's crazy.
That is crazy.
So
no.
for us, it wasn't about like trying to get all the adventures done before kids. We didn't start until after we had kids.
Sure.
So it was all part of the equation, and we didn't really have a lot of people to kind of ask questions about at the time because social media, when we started, wasn't really a thing. I think we had Blackberries, for our phones.
Sure.
So it's gotten easier now, and we've met a lot of folks. Like we had a couple of like sessions with other families that want to do this.
Yeah.
So we've talked to a lot of people, and then we tell them like, clearly this is not like having kids doesn't mean you have to stop, but you do have to change your mindset about what traveling is like. So we talk to the kids every year right around like end of the year. We say, are you guys still having fun? Do you still want to do this?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to drag your kids along on your adventure. You want to be on an adventure that everybody
It's a family
wants
adventure.
to do.
Yeah, together.
Yeah. So I think that's the mindset change you have to have when you're doing it with kids.
And we are seeing it more and more. When I was traveling through Central America, you would definitely bump into like French families like in an RV that they bought in France and they shipped it over Ro-Ro, and they got 87 kids in there. And you do find you would find that on occasion, and they were all so well adjusted and happy.
Yeah.
I mean, we have Graham Bell here in the audience, and he's traveled for decades with his kids. So, there's people that are doing it.
But he's South African. He doesn't count.
South Africans don't count.
It is funny when you say French family, because when the families we come across in Europe, usually they're French.
Yeah.
You know, if there's a family, it's French, and if
I'm
it's
always
a couple.
so jealous of the French. Like, they just seem to like have these like wonderful, peaceful lives with
it's the wine
bread
and cheese,
and stuff.
The sauce. It's wonderful there.
More rosé, Matt. More rosé.
More rosé.
Yeah, champagne. You know,
It's all gone to my complexion this weekend.
You've turned a color of rosé.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, essentially.
Looking at you makes me thirsty.
Yeah, you are what you drink. 25% Red Bull, 75% rosé.
Yeah, exactly. So now that you're looking back on that trip from Europe, how would you say that having your kids with you has changed you two? How have you guys seen your perspective on the world change?
I guess we're more aware of the environment, and like when we camp and wild camp and there's just trash around, it just makes me sad for the next generation. But it makes me excited to raise kids that can see that and say, this is wrong. Like, we need to clean up the earth and take care of nature more.
It's a big,
I want to dwell some more on Europe.
Yeah.
So, I don't really want to focus on like Western European countries. Like, I mean, no offense to like France and Germany and that kind of stuff, but industrialized and whatever. What were the most wild places that you went to in Europe?
Well, you know, as Americans, you have to do what's called the Schengen Shuffle when you're there. Fortunately, we didn't have to deal with that, but we were well aware of it, and we have friends
180 days and
yeah,
Schengen
180
within
days
9 months or whatever.
out of
90
the
out of
180 rolling window, previous 180 days. So you have to leave these Schengen countries that are probably the most popular tourism countries. So you're forced to go out. You know, you can go to Morocco, you can go to Turkey, you can go to.
Did you guys do Morocco?
Serbia.
We did.
We did
got
Morocco.
stuck
We did
there
Turkey.
during the pandemic and had to wait for a rescue boat.
With all French campers.
Yeah, because they closed
So
the borders.
you had to leave your van there then?
No.
So other Americans and Canadians had to, because they were only allowing EU citizens or residents back into the EU.
I see.
So that's why I was saying we didn't have to do the Schengen Shuffle, because Marlene's family's from Croatia.
Gotcha.
So she was able to get dual citizenship for herself and the kids. And then I was able to
you're just a
piggyback off of
freeloader,
her.
yeah. Man, that's
so they
the
say
dream.
you can stay as long as you're with them.
Okay, well, that's kind of cool.
That's amazing.
So we got back. We were able to come back to Europe during that lockdown period.
Sure.
Because of that, and then there were a couple from Montana that was stuck there longer. There was a family from Canada that was stuck there longer, and there was a couple from Malaysia that was stuck there longer.
Wow.
So we actually felt pretty fortunate.
Yeah.
But we're sharing our experience pretty much live at the time, so you know I think
It was an amazing time. Yeah,
I'm sure it was
intense.
really stressful. Like it would suck. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I mean, looking back, like it's kind of a unique thing. I mean, the world shut down, and you had to figure out how to get you, your family, and your car from one continent to another when everything shut down.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the ferries to Spain is only a 30-minute ferry.
Yeah.
Except Spain was the country that closed itself to Morocco. So we had to wait for a ferry that came down from France.
Yeah.
Which is a
Go to
2-day
Marseille
ferry.
or something,
Marseille,
Yeah. It was a 2-day ferry, and because it was coming to get people, so they weren't carrying anybody down, so everybody had to pay for a round-trip ticket for the ferry to come get us.
Yeah.
So it wasn't expensive. We still have the return ticket to Spain.
Yeah.
We
We'll
didn't
use
get
it
to
one
use
day.
it.
One day we'll be back.
Very useful.
Talking about favorite countries, though, it seems like our favorite countries, like we love all the countries, but the ones on the outside, like, okay, we went to Morocco, and it's like, oh, so cool here. We can go further. Like, it pushes us, like, oh, we love Turkey, because, wow, we can just keep going to Central Asia. I think those are somehow it pushes us.
And special thanks to the New England Overland Rally for supporting this week's podcast. The New England Overland Rally will bring together overlanders, adventure travelers, outdoor enthusiasts, and specialty exhibitors from throughout the Northeast and further for a fun and informative weekend of camping, educational classes, vendor demos, live music, and even culinary creations. Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park, located in the quiet northeast corner of Connecticut, is within an hour of several major cities, including Boston, Hartford, and Providence. The New England Overland Rally will be one of the largest gatherings of overland and outdoor enthusiasts in the Northeast. And the fall is a wonderful time of year at the track, and they have more than 200 acres for camping, vendor displays, food and beverage areas, and parking. For more information and to register, please visit neoverlandrarally.com.
Motivates
We were
us to
talking
keep
to
going.
some friends that Richard and Ashley, they're talking about their experience in Saudi Arabia, and then they're like, oh yeah, it's like when the first time you hear the call to prayers in the morning,
It's amazing.
For an American, it's a complete different cultural experience.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And then people say, oh yeah, I didn't have time to go down to Morocco. I was in Europe for a little bit. If I had gone, I would go for like 2 days to Tangier. But I was saying like, well, if you take a half-hour ferry to Tangier, that's practically a spaceship to Mars. You're in a different planet when you get there.
You are.
30 minutes away.
That's right.
So if you just have that little bit of time, by all means, go try it.
Yeah, Morocco's really special.
Yeah.
I want to go back.
Morocco is like so easy to get to. It's the equivalent of Baja.
Yeah, it's European Baja.
Yeah. Even the surfing too.
I think it's funny, like you fly into the airport in Marrakesh, and like in the parking lot, there's all these overland trucks just like parked there. It's really cool. Like people leave them there, they fly in, they fly out, they travel.
Yeah, Marrakesh, Casablanca.
We just had a rental car.
Yeah.
And that little, I think it was a Dacia Sandero or something.
Those are real
like,
popular down there.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
It was diesel, and it had like a 90-liter
four-wheel
fuel
drive.
tank, and it was like a lifted Corolla, and we may or may not have found some really cool Dakar course by Agadir, and we may or may not have taken off the front skid plate on it. But it was a really fun place.
Yeah. We wish we had more time there. We ended up only having a month before everything happened.
Yeah.
But we would go back and experience the coast, which is what we missed.
Yeah.
Originally, we went down. The thought was, okay, let's go inland first because it's going to get hot, and then we'll slowly come back up the coast. And our slow back up the coast was like half a day, trying to get up there before the border closed. And it was
Food we didn't make.
Yeah, you're moving at that point. Yeah.
But it's still, like you said, like the harrowing experiences ends up being the ones you remember, and you kind of look almost fondly back at it.
Well, we were talking about that yesterday, and we're so lucky as humans that we're programmed to forget the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And we, as time goes on, we just remember those good memories of travel.
Yeah. Oh, even the bad
that's the
memories
advice
become stories. And
Well, they say it's not an adventure until something goes wrong.
Right.
So when you guys got into, I'm really curious about Eastern Europe. I mean, things are very dynamic there at the moment, but like Moldova and just going into like Bosnia, Herzegovina, that area. Did you guys travel there much?
Sure, yeah.
What did you guys find in there? I have not been to that country, so.
Well, Marlene's family's from Croatia originally.
Sure.
So, and then they left during the Balkan War.
Sure.
Or actually before the Balkan War, but she would go back as a kid when it was still Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
And there was a period in the 90s where they couldn't go back. So we kind of see the Balkans with a slightly different perspective because of that familial history.
Yeah.
So it feels like home to us because she speaks Croatian.
Amazing.
So everywhere we go, it's like, it's like it diffuses any tension that may have.
Yeah.
Like we're in Bosnia, or is it Serbia? Like we need to park the van somewhere to go to this like Chavapi place, and then we park in front of this house, and the guy comes out, starts yelling at us in Serbian or Bosnian, and then she's asked him in Croatian back because it's the same language practically.
Okay.
And then he's like, oh, okay, yeah, you can park there. And then his mom comes out, starts yelling, and the son's like, no, they're cool. They're cool. Let them park there.
I think a lot of Americans are still intimidated by that area, or they just don't know. They don't know it as much more than a war.
Yeah.
I mean,
when I was there,
about that.
when I was there, I was under completely different auspices. So that's why I'd like to go back. So.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people who have experience there, I think they have military experience from being stationed nearby and having to negotiate that stuff.
I grew up with Sony. Like I grew up in Chicago, and I grew up with Sony people that came from that area during the war. When a lot of people ended up in Chicago.
There's a lot of Croatians in Chicago.
Yeah. So they didn't have necessarily, like, they had just left a country that was at war, you know?
Right.
So it was like, I really want to push myself to go there. I just don't know anything about it. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat that, you know, they get stuck to the Schengen countries in Europe and they just don't explore and they don't appreciate or recognize the history that is in that whole region.
And that coastline and everything is stunning.
Yeah.
Brian Bass.
What was a route that you guys did in Croatia that comes to mind as being more adventurous and maybe a little more remote that you could share?
Well, the second you go inland, it's like a different country.
Okay.
You know, so when you're along the coast, tourism is by far the biggest industry there. And it's unfortunate because they rely so much on it that it's either you're doing that and you make good money or you don't and then you're poor.
Yeah.
So if you go inland, right away, you still see bombed out houses and villages.
Yeah.
People left and just never came back.
Right.
And then after a few bombed out houses, there's like a massive mansion that somebody immigrated to America, poured money back to build up their own family home.
Right.
So, you know, going inland and then meandering through there's a lot of the things that we love most about Croatia is all the communist relics that are still there.
That's
like these old urban exploration stuff that you get to
fascinating. Those abandoned villages.
Yeah, we went to an
and stuff.
abandoned air base and the police pulled up to make sure we weren't camping there or causing any trouble. They're like, "Can we go in there?" Like, can we go explore the old air base? They're like, "You can, but there's bears living in there now, so be careful with the bears."
That's
like,
amazing.
"Oh, we'll just stay and just."
They came to talk to us not because they didn't want us to be there. They came to warn us about the bears.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think about like a bear encounter in Europe.
Yeah.
No.
So
This is like straight out of Star Wars. It's an underground, under a mountain. This is like where the rebels would have hit their X-wings.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
You know, so it's like deep in the tunnel.
Yeah.
There's probably still stuff in
You
there.
have piqued my interest.
It's really cool, and it's right on the border of Croatia and Bosnia.
Okay.
So now they also do patrolling for like whatever like illegal immigration because being part of the EU now, you know, they're sort of at the front lines
That's
of
their
it.
border, yeah.
And the thing about Croatia is like they've always been like that, going way back thousands of years. They were the frontiers against the Ottoman invasion.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so now they're the frontiers against non-European Union countries.
Right.
And now, you know, with Serbia sort of aligning themselves with Russia,
Sure.
like there's some conflicts, at least ideologically there too. There's always been, you know, her family being Croatian, it's like the war is still so fresh for everybody. But I will say though, within the last 20 years, a lot of the younger people's mentalities have changed. You know, her cousin who lives in Croatia was dating a Serbian girl for years and years. And 20 years ago, we would have never imagined that.
No.
So.
But camping there's great, and the thing is, a lot of countries they ban wild camping, which is boondocking here.
Sure.
So, but if you get away from the coastline and you're not in peak summer season, then there's trails and places to camp, and
And they leave you alone.
and you
They
can
leave you
camp
alone.
by yourself, and it's awesome.
And what people don't realize, you know, there's these popular apps, kind of like what we have here, are user contributed. Like our Overlander works there, but then they have this other one called Park for Night, and a lot of the properties are private properties, and you have to really be mindful because having like friends and relatives that live there, we know when we go to her family's village, like all this land is owned by somebody. It doesn't look like it, but it's owned by somebody. You know, so when we go to like places like Portugal or go to like, you know, other more countries with a lot of like wide open rural space, we're mindful that somebody may own this land. So let's not tell everybody to come here.
Right.
You know, if they let us stay, you know, that's awesome. But let's let everybody else who tries to come here first communicate with those locals.
Figure it out on
Get their
their own.
permission. You know, instead of just sharing it with the world. And then, like, while we were there, like, Portugal shut down all wild camping because it has gotten so bad. So, you know, it's something to be mindful of.
Oh, and it'll happen here if we don't take responsibility for...
Feels like it has in some places, for sure.
Well, and Moab shut a bunch of stuff down. Sedona just
Tetons.
shut a bunch of stuff down. So the party will be over if we don't take care of it. So.
Absolutely.
So now let's talk a little bit about your van. Talk about what you've done to modify it to meet your needs and any advice you'd have for someone that was looking for a Sprinter.
So we bought our Sprinter 4 months before we shipped to Europe. And for us, it was really more about comfort. So we don't have anything in our van that's there just to look cool. The ones that
Are you even an
Oh, we have some
overlander?
stickers, Dan.
we have
a snorkel?
We do have a snorkel.
Oh, okay. Well, of course you're an overlander.
That's because we only installed it because our plan was to drive through across Mongolia.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But now we're sitting around with a snorkel like, oh yeah, we're such posers. But
It's the overland wave.
Yeah, it is.
Right. Exactly. But we just kind of add things as needed. You know, we added skid plates last year and snorkel last year with the intention of driving across Central Asia, Mongolia, Russia.
Yeah. That's an amazing route. I hope you guys will be able to do that.
We hope to be able to do it. I think
It's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while. So I think what we'll do is when we go back to Europe, we'll buy a different vehicle from there. I think it opens up more possibilities not having California license plate. When we start going to eastern part of that area, Central Asia, like former Soviet bloc and stuff like that. Especially now, people in Europe drive through Iran, which is a beautiful country, but as American passport or U.S. passport holders, it's challenging.
Yeah.
But they're dual citizens with Croatia. I'm dual citizen with Taiwan, but the California license plate is what gives us away.
Yeah.
So
I drove across the Silk Road with UK plates.
Yeah.
And it was easy.
Yeah, right.
You're on a V5. They recognize the document oftentimes.
Yeah.
So it's not unusual. So.
And we feel like having kids also helps
Always
diffuse
helps.
the situation.
Yeah.
Whenever we're crossing a border,
when you got a couple military-age males in a vehicle, it always raises suspicions. So.
Wearing multicam.
Yeah, all tactical.
All tactical gear. Yeah.
Yeah, we
gloves.
We roll down the windows and like, kids smile and wave.
Yeah.
And
It makes
say
a big
hello in that
difference.
language, and okay, you guys are good.
Makes a big difference. So you added the skid plate and the snorkel for Mongolia.
Yeah.
And then what else have you guys found like, whoa, this really made a difference for our travels?
I mean, we have a four-wheel drive Sprinter, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary. But having good tires always helps.
Yeah.
You know, we would go smaller if we could, just to fit into more places. But you know, we switched from the four-wheel camper for Europe, partially because it was easier to find parts if something broke.
For sure.
For an F-250, like you're completely out of luck if you're there.
You're shipping it in.
Yeah. And then you're paying more for fuel with a vehicle like that, and also it was 6 inches narrower, and that made all the difference in some places.
Sure.
And it meant either dragging your car along this rock wall, or just barely fitting through.
Well, all the goods in Europe are delivered to the little stores with a Sprinter.
Yeah.
That was exactly what I said when we decided.
Or like a little Citroen, some equivalent. I mean, they're all the same size.
Right.
Yeah.
I said this the other day. They gotta have beers delivered here.
That's right.
That comes in the Sprinter.
That's right.
And if they're not delivering beers to this place, I don't want to go.
I like this. This is a good philosophy. This is a good philosophy.
What did you guys do on the interior? For like a build out? I mean, obviously, like you're living in it.
Yeah.
So permanent bunks in the back, because we don't want to set up anything. So the kids sleep on top, all three together. And then Dan and I sleep below. We have 2 cabinets, so our bed's a little bit smaller. And then we have our garage below that.
Yeah, so we before the Sprinter, our four-wheel camper was the front dinette version.
Yeah.
So it had the cab over, a king-size bed, and then the dinette underneath. So that was sort of like a bunk bed. And then with the galley and fridge on the side like this. So we actually really like that. We just wanted hard sides.
Yeah.
So that's why the Sprinter helped. So we sort of mimicked that layout, but instead of having the dinette and the cab over, we had upper and lower bunks. So we're on the bottom, the kids on the top. And then we had the sort of galley-style kitchen. And what's nice about the Sprinter is that we don't lose the cab space.
Oh, sure.
Like we did in the four-wheel.
Yeah, you can turn it around.
Yeah, our
swivel
favorite
seats.
things are
They
the
become
swivels.
part of the
Yeah.
environment.
So even though we don't have like a nice big dinette tabletop to kind of play games or do stuff in, but we can still sit and, you know,
Where
hang
do
out,
the
play with
kids
each
sit
other.
while you're driving?
We have the, they call the
Crew.
the Sprinter
Factory crew.
Okay.
So we
So it has a
bought
bench
it,
seat.
yeah.
Oh, I see.
Has a
Got
second
it.
row bench seat.
I see.
Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. Cool.
Yeah, it was completely empty, but the bench seat and some headliner.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then we built the rest out ourselves.
Okay.
Okay, so you did it. Okay, yeah, I was wondering if somebody did it.
No, it was us in
That's
front of
cool.
my parents'
You
house.
can. I mean, there are
Yeah.
vendors here that have, seat bases that attach to L-Track.
Sure.
Fully
Yeah.
customizable, stuff like that. So we would have gone that route if we couldn't find this van. This was the van that we would have built on the Mercedes website if we were to build one. And in fact, when we decided to switch from the four-wheel, we went to the website and it's like, okay, so what would it be like for us to build one? So we picked stone gray because that was the cool color that we wanted. We picked the 170 Crew four-wheel drive, and then we built this out. That looks great. And I'm like, we're never gonna find this. This doesn't exist. You can order one, it'll happen 2 years after.
Yeah.
And then we went to the closest Mercedes dealership and it was like,
There.
it was just sitting there.
Talk about meant to be.
It was
Yeah.
meant to be.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It was a sign.
Somebody had ordered it and then decided that they couldn't get enough for their trade-in and just said, give it to somebody else.
What a day.
And then we showed up, we're like, this is 2018, and it was already hard to find by then.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah,
were
that was
giving
like
no
peak
deals.
Sprinter, like
Yeah.
four-wheel drive. They finally come to the U.S. madness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were no discounts. You're paying MSRP.
Yeah.
And they gave us $1,000 off. We're like, those people only give us $1,000 off, and now we look like geniuses.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, just to get it at MSRP.
Just to get a
Yeah.
van
Impossible,
at any
impossible.
price, really, it's been tough.
It's impossible.
This content is brought to you by Overland Journal, our premium quality print publication. The magazine was founded in 2006 with the goal of providing independent equipment and vehicle reviews, along with the most stunning adventures and photography. We care deeply about the countries and cultures we visit and share our experiences freely with our readers. We also have zero advertorial policy and do not accept any advertiser compensation for our reviews. By subscribing to Overland Journal, you're helping to support our employee-owned and veteran-owned publication. Your support also provides resources and funding for content like you are watching or listening to right now. You can subscribe directly on our website at overlandjournal.com.
What is coming up next for you guys? Now that you're back in the U.S., what's the plan?
That's the big question.
Yeah. So we have a 15-year-old.
Okay.
So in 3 years, she can choose to leave us if she wants. But she doesn't want to. She wants to keep adventuring. And we talk about it each year. So when we came back, we weren't originally planning on shipping the van back. We came back because her brother's getting married. And she only has one brother, and we can't not go.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
important.
So that's in 2 weeks. So our obligations back here ends in 2 weeks. And then the next obligation is the kids have missed trick-or-treating in the U.S. because they don't do that in Europe.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
So we want to do that this year. And then after that, we really miss Baja. So we want to go back down there when it's
So
cooler.
special, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then 2023 sort of, it becomes sky's the limit thing again. So we're talking about possibly shipping to Uruguay.
Yeah.
And then starting the Pan Am coming up, going down and come up the other way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Or also, I'm from Taiwan originally, so the kids really want to go mostly for the food.
Sure.
So, and I also have to show them that orange chicken is not the best dish. Not part of
What?
the world. I know. It's unbelievable. But it's
Got pretty mic drop, walks out.
yeah, everybody's leaving.
Don't you insult Panda Express in front of
Especially our
me.
youngest. He loves it. It's his favorite dish. He's like, I can't wait to go to Taiwan and just go eat a panda. We don't have panda there in Taiwan. But if we do that, though, I don't think we'll ship a car. I think
Yeah,
we'll
South
just figure
America
out-
sounds amazing
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
It's so
it
beautiful
does.
down there. So
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, so we have lots of friends that have gone. I mean, you spend a lot of time down there. So it seems like something that we could, one of the easiest things for us to do.
Yeah.
Because we're neighbors, practically.
And it's beautiful down there. It's stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's penguins.
Yeah,
And there's penguins. Right.
That's right.
Right.
And there's great food down there too.
Yeah.
Great food.
How do you
Great
feel
wine.
about shipping down there and driving up versus driving down and shipping back? Like, is there a particular method or reason as to why you've chose to do that?
I'm scared of the heat in Central America with
you and me
these two
both.
cats, and we don't have an air conditioning by our choice.
Okay.
So I'm a little worried, like the kids.
Do you think you'll do Central America?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it'd
Yeah.
be easier for us to be in weather that mountains we can escape to.
Well, also logistically, for people that drive down, you got to ship across the Darien Gap anyways.
Yeah.
And you come all the way down, and what do you do at the bottom? Or do you just turn around and drive up? I mean, obviously you can drive a different route up.
Yeah.
A lot of people go up and ship from, Buenos Aires or Montevideo anyways to come back to Texas or something. So if you don't want to sort of do a lot of double backing, and you do have to kind of play everything by weather. So if we can time it right, we just go down, and then we never have to redo any routes.
Yeah.
And just come up. And it also sort of minimizes the amount of shipping you have to do. Unless you're shipping from Montevideo to South Africa or Europe or something, then it makes more sense to drive down and then ship out from there.
Yeah.
So if you're going to come back into the U.S., it seems that way. And then we would love to just have the last place we be before we come back be Baja again.
Okay, yeah.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like driving.
Fish tacos.
Driving up is good. I think driving up is good.
Yeah.
It makes
I've always been stuck on this romantic notion of driving down and ending in Ushuaia. I just don't think that I could do it any other way when I eventually go crazy by a motorcycle and call my wife from Panama.
Yeah. That is different to start from there.
Yeah.
But then you have to sort of picture yourself ending at Prudhoe Bay.
Yeah, to do it the other direction. And you're going to encounter a lot more travelers that are heading south.
Yeah.
So you'll meet a lot more people, which will be
That's
fun.
true.
Yeah, I think so, right?
Whereas if you're all going the same direction, maybe you kind of interact with folks. But if you're going opposite of traffic, then you're gonna bump into a lot
and
more
then you
travelers.
become the guys who tells people where things are.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, we're getting close to the end, but you want to bring your kids up so we can introduce them, and you guys want to do that or no? Not interested?
You guys want to say
You guys
hi?
want to just come say hi?
Just come say hi. You guys are the awesome ones going around the world. How cool
This
is
is
that?
Luca. He's 10.
Okay, so we got Luca.
Yep. Introduce yourselves.
I'm Mila.
That's Mila.
I'm Ava.
And Ava.
I'm 15.
Well, we are so impressed by all of you and your stories and your adventures around the world.
And the cats
How
aren't here,
incredible
but
that-
this is
no cat. What are the name of the cats? Okay.
Twin, the gray one with
The nice one.
Toby.
Is there such thing as a nice cat? I mean, I don't know.
If you compare two, then there's nicer ones.
Well, thank you guys. Any other questions that you've got, Matt?
No, this has just been so good. I've been able to ask all my selfish questions.
Well, we so appreciate all of you being on the podcast and inspiring so many other families to go see the world and not be afraid to do that. And
Thanks for having
what an
us.
amazing thing to experience together. So
Thank you. Thank you for having us, too.
thank you guys for being on the
Thank you
podcast.
so much.
We thank everybody for listening. We'll talk to you all next time.